Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of Dale's Rails. I have a really large box behind me here that showed up on my front porch this week, and it contains an item that I've had on my list of engines to collect, and it's one of those items that you tend to put on the back burner, for me anyway, at least, just because of the scarcity of them that they come available, because it is kind of a unique model, and it's also usually at a price point that I don't, feel comfortable spending that kind of money on, and also features was another thing for me, and this particular model just seemed to check all those boxes perfectly for me. So, I'm kind of excited about it, and I can't wait to show it to you. Okay, this is actually a couple items that I bought. So there's an engine and a new reefer car in here. This is another purchase I made through Trains. It's according to their description, they list this as a Bachmann 160-22903. So it's actually a Williams by Bachmann, or at least I hope that's what's in here. And we know how another one of these went one time. So here we got the packer in here, which is handy. Yep, that's what you're showing. This is a pretty sweet looking little model, and I sure hope everything works on it, because it's kind of a unique model. This is the packing. Well, that's, mostly it's packing in here. Yeah, it's looking already pretty sweet. So here's the first item. We'll just go through here. This is the, get it out of the box here. It's kind of hard to see in the box. Get this packing out of there. This one here was listed as C8. So this right here is I got a really good deal on this, so I'm kind of tickled about that. So this is a Wolf Schmidt vodka reefer, and it's a wood-sided reefer. So that's another bonus. And the engine here, pretty stoked about this. It's this engine's claim to fame, according to Train's description here, this is a model of the Union Pacific. Wow, a little heavier than I thought it was going to be. Oh, wow, it is real heavy. The Union Pacific GP 30. So the GP 30 is, if you guys are familiar with them, these stand out to look unlike anything else that's out there. They're unique in the fact that they have this design hump that was built into them. Get this out. Oh yeah, boy, that's a beautiful looking engine. I mean, it still has all the this is crazy, because it's got all the original box and instructions. I don't know that I don't think I've ever had an instruction sheet that I'm aware of to any Williams model yet, so that's kind of a neat. But this model here, Well, I hope everything works on it. You know, it's an older model, but you know, this still has all. I don't think this thing has ever been ran. I didn't realize that. I'll have to go back and check the description. Maybe it, I don't even remember if it said C8 like new. It might have. But, wow, this thing is, it's pretty heavy for a little engine. It still has all the original styrofoam. This is crazy. You know, I'm really tickled about this because this engine claimed to fame as far as Williams by Bachmann. You know, the box on here does say Williams by Bachmann. This is the unicorn that I thought I had when I bought the GP9s. This is the first Bachmann model that contains the 16-bit polyphonic sound that Trains refers to as True Blast Plus. So this is supposed to have prime mover, horn, and bell sounds. So we'll have to get this on the layout and see if it runs. You know, it's just crazy that I'm going to even think about running it. This is kind of neat. You know, one of the things that I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, if there's a negative that I could talk to you about Williams engines, is the fact that they don't have a lockout usually. So that's the only thing that, you know, that's a negative for me on the Williams. But this one contains a lockout switch. I don't know if you can see that down in there. You can see it say lock and run. Hopefully that shows up. Can't tell by looking. But that's kind of a neat feature. So let's get this thing on the layout. And we can pull it along with the new, we'll run it along with the new box cart here. Maybe I can just put it on this loop here. Actually, that's a reefer. I'm a little scared to turn that on. This thing is gorgeous. I don't know if you guys want to get a good look at that. That is a gorgeous looking model right there. I am just tickled pink. So I'm almost afraid to put power to it. Well, here she is, guys. Boy, she is a beaut, isn't she? She ready to run now. You know, I didn't feel comfortable running this until I did a full servicing on it, and it's a good thing I did. It didn't have any grease. You know, it would have ran. You know, most of the Williams engines I get tend to be really sparse on grease, whether they're new or used or whatever. They just tend not to have that much grease, and so usually you won't find too many of those that are froze up. It seems like I have ran into some that were older, that had the older style non-flywheel can motors in them that sometimes are froze up with grease in it. But you know, this model here is a little bit hard to find information. That's one of the problems of dealing with the Williams models. I find it's a little bit unfortunate. Unlike Lionel, you know, there's just not a lot of database out there to draw information from. But from what I can tell, this is a model from 2013. It had quite a few unique features and details for that time. And one of them, it listed new. This was the first model they put the 16-bit polyphonic sound system in, which is referred to sometimes as a True Blast Plus. And this model is has other prominent features to it, you know, that I'll be glad to share with you a little bit later on. But on Also found some information on the GP30s, specifically the Union Pacific 804. The GP30s tend to have, it was a new design with that cab style for that time, and it had a rather short production span from for 3 years. I think it's 61 to 63 is when these were built, and then Union Pacific was one of their better customers. They took possession of 152 units in a 1 year time span from the July of 62 to July of 63. And they were all in the 800 series. So they started 800 and went to 874. So they took 112 cab units, and then they also took possession of 40 cabless B units that were equipped with steam generators for passenger service. This was a cab number that I could trace to all the way up to 87. So they had a rather long service life. Apparently in 87, there was a program, a remanufacturing program involved with 10 remaining of the GP30s that Union Pacific had, and they were remanufactured and recatalogued as a GP39M. And it turns out number 804 there ended up being one of those 10, and it was sold off eventually to Burlington Northern as 2817. So that's a little bit of a history on the GP30s. I found some other information. This week's Nirvana is going to be about the GP30, and I've got three different questions on it. What was the reason for EMD's development of the GP30, and what is it credited for ushering in a new era of competition? Number 2, what led to the hump design? And I'll give you a clue. It wasn't because they were GM car guys, stylists. Yeah, they had something to do with it, but that's not why they had to do it. What role did the UP30s play? Historically significant role did it play in Kansas? So those are the 3 questions I have for the Nirvana segment, and I hope you have fun with that. But for now, we're going to get this thing running around. I've got here on the outer track a GP38 where we can see the difference in the cab designs. I have yet to come across a GP35, but I'm looking to add that to my collection. The GP35 is the first locomotive with what they call this Spartan cabin design. Okay, we'll run this around now, and you're witnessing the first run session along with myself, so let's just back him up out of the way. See some of the features. That's the bell. That's the horn. Wow. I haven't heard any Williams model sound like that yet. Wow, that's really nice. Let's run her around. It's going to be a little herky-jerky probably on this ZW. Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, I think we'll pull her down here on the lower level and take a little bit more closer look at her other features. Okay, I think we'll get her down here and take a look at some of the other design features this model had. You can see here, there's really, other than what I've been running, there's really no runtime on this. So, you know, it just kind of very, I'm just kind of a little bit in shock. You know, forgive me for acting like a little kid on this, but, you know, I'm a little bit in disbelief just because, you know, it's been one of those models that you've been looking to get for a long time that you just don't think you're going to have any chance of ever attaining it just because of all the difficulty of getting one is. And, you know, and I'm just really surprised by the deal I got on this. But this model here has some other significant design features. Hopefully I got that on the rails better. So one of the things is it's got these little safety chains on here. You know, may not seem like all that big of a deal, but it's kind of a neat little feature. And it's got them on the front and the rear. And it's also got the little gang planks. I call them gang planks. I guess they're steps, but you know, I call them gang planks. Got those front and rear. I guess if I was going to have to walk one of them, I'd want to walk the one on the rear, maybe have a better chance of surviving. Then the other thing it had, it's supposed to have directional LED lighting, which is a neat feature. We'll watch out a little bit here. These Williams, they start in Ford, so yeah, so there's the headlight. And then we go back here and look at the rear. Now the rear, I guess, tail light back here isn't on. So that's the way it's supposed to go. See if we can get it going neutral. Yep. So that light's not working. And then that light's not working. It's like it's supposed to be. Okay, let's see if we can get it to go in reverse. Try it real carefully here. Oh, that's kind of interesting. It changes engine RPM in neutral. I didn't do that. See what happens if we throw it in reverse. Oh, that was a horn. Yeah, so you can see the rear light on. That means the front light shouldn't be on. Yeah, the front light's not on. Come back here and look. That's why it's good to do this with the CW80. You can see that light getting a little brighter. And there that is. Get it to go in neutral again. We've got it going forward. I think we'll just go ahead and run it around now a little bit. Wow, that's just a really nice running and sounding engine. Okay, you can see how much better it's running off of the CW80 transformer here. You guys are just starting out in the hobby. You want to get you a good solid state transformer, in my opinion, to run these can motored engines. That way you can you can run them like this and get really finite speed control. Simply because this particular transformer starts out at 0 volts, which means it also shuts off at 0 volts. So you're going to get smooth starts and smooth stops. And it really doesn't matter probably what brand you get. Any good, I'd get solid state just because of the electronics in these. It's probably best. And this lets you run this engine just like that, crawl speed. You know, MTH, Lionel, it doesn't really matter. You know, if you run this off a CW, I've heard some people having problems running Williams engines off of CWs because of their something in the reverse board that's doesn't really like the CW80 for some reason. But I haven't had that problem. I kind of often wondered if it might be the particular CW80 that they have at the time. I don't seem to be having those problems. But you know, while we're on the subject, if you're looking for a CW80, they did produce some of these. I don't know if you want to say they're defective, but the earliest CW80s, you want to be careful of that they, especially if you're buying them like on eBay or something like that, or even at train shows. The first ones came out, had your polarity reversed, so your positive and negatives was reversed on it, and it caused sometimes run problems and horn and bell problems. If you're going to phase them together like I've done my transformer, it's definitely going to be a problem there. In fact, this CW80, I used it to establish the positive and negative simply because this has it is a two-prong plug, but it is polarized. So whereas your post-war transformer, a lot of times they're not polarized, so you can change the polarity on these transformers just by which way you plug it into the wall outlet. So once you establish your polarity on your transformer, you want to make sure you mark that if your plug is not polarized. So what you want to look for if you're buying these, if you look on the back side of these transformers, so make sure if you're buying this on eBay or at a train show or wherever, that you can see this, what I call the catalog number. I've asked some eBay people that don't show the back side what model numbers, and they'll tell me it's CW80. They think that's the model number, I guess. But yeah, it does say model CW80 right there, so I see where they're getting that at. But this number here is going to be different on the early issues that have the incorrect polarity. And the polarity corrected transformer, I find, have this G preceding the number. It doesn't really matter so much what the number is, as long as you see this G that precedes the number. And that's what you want to look for on a CW80, in my opinion, to get the polarity corrected version. Well, that's enough of that. Hopefully you guys have had a chance giving you guys a chance to come up with the answers for our nirvana segment. And start with number one here. What was the reason for EMD's development of the GP30 and is believed to be credited for ushering in a new era of competition? You know, for those of you that may not know, Alco was the most, in my opinion, the most successful steam engine builder that made the transition into diesel with their successful diesel designs. In fact, they had some very good designs. You know, they had partnered with General Electric from the get-go. And it was in 1953, I guess, that GE felt like they didn't need Alco anymore, so they parted ways with Alco and went on their own. And during that time, you know, I'm sure General Motors kind of enjoyed the fact that there wasn't really any competition to speak of. So I think they kind of got caught with their pants down, because in 1959, GE produced their first successful road switcher, which was a U-25B, or otherwise known as the U-boat. So it was the first U-boat design for General Electric. It was a 2,500 horsepower diesel engine. And the GP30 here was only 2,250 horsepower. Now, that's 250 horsepower less than the GE locomotive, but it was 250 horsepower more than the GP20 it was designed to replace. Primarily because General Motors used their 560 prime mover, all the way up to at least the GP38s, I believe. And so, that engine, that diesel prime mover had been around, in the early F unit. So it had a long service life, and that's one of the things that made General Motors so attractive to the railroads, is the fact that you know, they had that longevity of the engine design and stuff. Plus, it was very reliable. So, you know, and they could just, you know, they could share parts between newer models. So it really kind of an advantage to the railroads, just from the standpoint of cost efficiency. But, you know, they were pretty much at their limit on how much horsepower they could squeeze out of that. So as a result, it's believed to be that this engine was the start of the horsepower race between General Motors and GE. It's like they just kept trying to squeeze more and more horsepower out of their engines to outdo their competition, to the point where actually this was probably a pretty good design for its time. I mean, that's one reason I think the GP40s were so successful, because they just had a perfect blend of power and agility and balance. So, but the next question is, what led to the hump design here? Now, it's true that General Motors designers are responsible for the design, but it was really out of necessity for the hump. And it was due to a much taller electrical cabinet that they put in this locomotive. Now, that seems kind of odd to me, because you would think they would have just redesigned the cabinet, but I guess it was easier to raise the roof. So another thing to look for on these GP30s for this particular hump design, it's only the ones with the dynamic brake that continued this hump all the way throughout and incorporated into the dynamic braking housing. The GP30s without dynamic brakes have a little bit different roof design here. So if you wanted to collect all the prototypes, you would probably have to collect the one with and one without dynamic braking, because there is a difference in this, the way they look. Number 3, what role did the UP GP30s, that was a historically significant role in Kansas? UP used the cabless B units that were equipped with steam generators for Vietnam-era troop trains to transport troops between Fort Riley, Kansas, and the West Coast. Well, there you have it. That's today's segment. Hope you enjoyed it. I sure had fun. And until next time, you're watching Dale's Rails. Thanks for watching.